Good morning, Mayor Q. What it
Good,
do?
good morning. Good morning. It's good to be with you all today. Hope you're having a good Friday.
Look, Mayor Q, we went from having the Super Bowl, world champs, world stage. We was all kicking it, and the global crisis, social
Yeah.
distancing is everywhere. It's here in Kansas City, and our city is literally shut down. Wanted to just ask you first off, how are you doing? Which is most importantly, and just how are you balancing everything with just your day to day, your first year in the office. You could have not predicted this. Tell us what's up with you.
So I'm doing fine. I mean, this is a challenging time. It is not something that somebody runs for mayor expecting to have to solve. But at the same time, all of us in life have different things that come our way, and you gotta swing at them. And so I'm doing all right. I mean, I'm like everybody else. I would love to be out and about. I'd love to
Mm-hmm.
be out in the community, and we don't get to do that right now. I'd love to see businesses in Kansas City open again.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I try to take care of myself. I try to make sure I am getting a decent amount of sleep. It doesn't seem that way, but I usually turn in about 9:30, 9 o'clock, 10, because ain't nothing really to do. So I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Well, and we want to let you know, Craig and I, we appreciate you. We love you dearly. We can't thank you enough for your leadership to Kansas City. We know this is a very challenging time, and so we just want to say thank you for everything that you're doing. We know you're not getting a lot of sleep. We know
Uh,
you're getting up early. You're working day and night, and so we appreciate you. And thank you for giving your number to Kansas City as well.
Yeah, man. That was
I
risky,
mean,
but
it,
very
yeah, anybody
transparent.
who's got a complaint, they got me. So yeah, that's been interesting.
Good, good. So, with the stay-at-home order kind of coming to an end, and you see some of your neighboring counties even pushing up the date a little bit, we want to get your insight on what you felt like some of the precautions some of the small business might be need to take into consideration, or has there been any planning, or will there be any type of
Yeah.
standards that
So
will be out
first,
there?
So first things first, I mean, it is my view that there has not been much planning.
Hmm.
That's why I have some concern with the actions recently of neighboring counties that are kind of, alleging we're out of the woods when we're not, right? A lot of the data we look at a lot relates to hospitalizations, our ability to test, our ability to trace. Um, Hospitalizations, we've been able to keep that from increasing too dramatically. But on testing and tracing, we're still not where we need to be. And so I continue to have a view that we've got more work to do there. And I think we have to be responsible about reopening and not just saying, like my governor said the other day, Missouri's open for business. Okay, but what does that mean? How does that mean that people are safe and protected? How does that mean that we don't harm communities of color disproportionately?
Hmm.
That,
Hmm.
as we are not surprised to see, much like every other public health issue ever,
Hmm.
right, we are disproportionately impacted right now.
Hmm.
And I'm frustrated because it seems like, and I know we all live in this world, as soon as they started reporting that black folks were getting it disproportionately, then at the same time, everybody's like, all right, time to reopen,
Right.
right? We figured out where the at-risk populations are. Let's just keep it moving. And that's something I'm not going to abide by in Kansas City. That's why you see Kansas City staying where it is. But in terms of directions to business, we will look to promulgate those. It is likely to be um, for those businesses that can maintain social distancing. You go ahead and you have to, make sure that you have fewer employees on the factory floor. You're making sure that you have fewer people in the space, and that largely you are trying to keep that distance as much as possible. For businesses that cannot always maintain that, this is your beauty shops, your barber shops, that sort of thing. Making sure that there are requirements for masks and gloves, making sure that there's frequent sanitizing of everything that people are touching, are going to be key parts of it. And then eventually, right, we have a ban on large events, probably moving from event sizes of 10 to 50 to 250 and so on. But that's going to be a matter of months, not days.
Right.
And that's why in Kansas City, Missouri, at least, we're going to take an approach that says we will take good, solid steps as we do it, not just, have 30 protesters on the plaza and say, oh, hell, we better open up.
Yeah, you hit on some really good points there. I think that especially when it comes to barbershops and beauty shops, they're the ones who are really trying to open up fast. But I also see a lot of them speaking up and saying like,
Mm-hmm.
we want to make sure that we're keeping our patrons safe and keeping ourselves
Right.
safe.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely appreciate everybody's insight and being active in doing that. You mentioned the documentation that needs to happen with the trace testing and things like that. And we see that there's been a focus in Kansas East on that just recently, which we greatly appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking towards the businesses that are small businesses in those areas that probably don't have the same type of opportunities as businesses in the crossroads or businesses downtown, do you feel like that there would be some sort of aid or maybe some programming that probably help those people keep their doors open who might have been struggling before this pandemic?
I think, yeah, we absolutely are. Not only do we have our $500,000 fund that we need to make sure the money gets out on the streets. I know there's been work from the Central City Economic Development sales tax. That is an 8-cent sales tax for the east side of Kansas City exclusively. I know they're looking to try to allocate more funding as well out into the world. So, yeah, we're doing our work. We're going to make sure that it's particularly allocated to areas and businesses in need. And it's not just the sort of thing where money's going to one place. I mean, I think one of the more interesting situations we saw the other day, where you might have caught that from the federal government, Harvard University was
Yeah.
getting $9 million.
Mm-hmm.
And, first they tried to say, well, these aren't business funds, all of that. We need to make sure we're doing it right, because some of that same craziness is happening in Kansas City. And I don't think that that's something that we are intending to do. We need to make sure we're helping people who need it, not those who don't. And so we are trying to create as many programs as we can each day to ensure that that happens.
Mayor Q, you talked about in your press conferences this week and across from City Hall about the importance of making sure that we have a healthy community. Obviously, businesses want to start back up and running. But pivoting back to your question with the funding, how does like the census and voter registration play a factor in that when it comes to us being in a position to maybe get other funding in the future?
Yeah. I mean, we need everybody to fill out the census in Kansas City,
Mm-hmm.
Missouri.
Yeah.
The funding from the federal government, direct funding from the federal government, was based on if a city has 500,000 people or more. The unfortunate thing for Kansas City was that at the 2010 census, we did not. In 2020, we do. We have 505,000 people in Kansas City. But we can't prove it yet, right? We need a census. We need everybody to make sure they're filling out that information. They're filling out the data so that we can get an accurate count of Kansas Cityans. Remember, the federal government doesn't do the census based on estimates, right? They do it based in the same way they did it in the 18th century, based on who can they see, who can they count. And we need to make sure that Kansas City is in a good position to be able to be represented fairly in connection with that.
Oh, Mayor Q, what are the best ways for people to, I guess, I've heard in several online conversations that there was maybe some surveys or data that are going out there for us to be able to give you guys information. How can we as BHKC or anybody listening be able to spread the word so we can be able to get that data to you guys?
I think the Kansas City government website, if you're on Twitter ever, it's at KCMO. Provides a lot of good information on what we're doing, the surveys we're asking, all of that. And they do it somehow without the politics in. It doesn't, we don't get in fights about Trump or anything like that, at least on that one. If you follow me, we get in fights. But, so that's one area, kcmo.org. Our website is another source I often see people use to try to address issues like that. So I think there are a few different ways to do it, but that's one of the vital and important ones.
Awesome.
Mayor Q, do you feel like Governor Parson is in, sync with you and it relates to communicating with Washington and obviously here in Kansas City and being able to communicate those things that what he's seeing and maybe what you're seeing is totally two different things?
No, I mean, look, here's the deal. We talk and we communicate. And so I guess to that, I got to say, sure, yeah, we talk to each other. But I think we see the world a little differently, right? And we see some of the issues differently. And to be fair to him, we got different jobs, right? He is the governor of Missouri. I'm the mayor of Kansas City. I'm worried about disproportionate health outcomes, particularly impacting Black and brown communities. I guess he's thinking of a state that's like 80% white. I'm worried about the fact that this disease is disproportionately impacting poorer populations. He should be too, but nevertheless, right? I mean, we have different views. My metropolitan area has more infections than others. And actually, I tweeted this morning. I think responsibly, we need to see this as a metropolitan area. I don't want our public health to be dictated by what's happening on the ground in Hannibal, Missouri, or Mississippi, or in Colby, Kansas, hours away near Colorado. Right? That's not what it needs to be. And frankly, for all those counties right now that are saying, well, I'm sticking with my governor's order, I think it misses the mark that we're a metropolitan area. It misses the mark that people can travel a lot more, that there are a lot more people, that we have an airport, that we have all of these things, right? This disease didn't start on the east side of Kansas City, but now, right, the east side is the most impacted. This disease didn't start in KCK, but now KCK has more cases than anywhere in Kansas and almost anywhere more than in the metro area. I haven't checked the last few days, but for a lot of days, Kansas City, Kansas, with a third of the population of Kansas City, Missouri, had more cases than we did. 2/3 of them Black. I mean, that's crazy. And so, to me, anybody who's saying, let's reopen without a plan for how you address that disparity, anybody who's saying, hey, all right, we're not really worried about testing anymore, that's the problem for me. And that is a difference I've had with my governor. I actually got no shade to throw at Governor Kelly over in Kansas, for those who live over there. But that's a problem I've had with some other folks. And that's something that we need to address better in this crisis.
So how do you see? I want to highlight one of the questions that's in our comments. How do you see neighbor counties with their moving to open earlier, and with all of our communities interchanging with each other? Because I got sometimes you have to go to work in Lee Summit when you live in KCK. How do we protect ourselves when we're not just yet open, but the other counties around us will be transporting between?
Well, Kiana will never let me lie to her, so I'll just say that it's a problem. I mean, it's a problem. That's why I continue to get on the phone right now. Wyandotte County in Kansas and Johnson County, Kansas, have not made determinations as to whether they will extend their date. I hope they do, because if you get Wyandotte, Johnson, Jackson County over here, and all of Kansas City, Missouri, that's a lot of us. And I'll be praying for my friends in Liberty and others that are in different orders. I mean, I think the fact that we are so mobile needs to be something that would be addressed. And I think if the shoe was on the other foot, the other counties would expect us to actually try to do something that's for the best interest of the region. I would hope that they get that sense too, to recognize this isn't about what President Trump tweeted yesterday. This isn't about, something else under the sun. Frankly, this isn't about, liberty, right? This is actually about people's ability to live, our ability to address this illness, and our ability to be smart with how we reopen. And so, no, I think it's negative for our community. I think it's going to be worse for those communities if they reopen too soon, and it's inconsistent in terms of what we're seeing.
Mayor Q, we were going through budget kind of back and forth things before social distancing, the stay-at-home order. Is City Council or in sync with you? Are you guys working on different budget things? How is that going to look? I know money is getting shifted. How is that going to impact small businesses? Do you have any remarks regarding that?
Yeah, it's going to hurt everybody. I mean, so we are expecting to have less money in the door. That means less money for any programs ranging from the Kansas City Business Care Office to other types of arts relief, all types of stuff. So it's gonna have a tough impact.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there's money that's coming from the federal government through the stimulus and through the CARES Act. We are looking to try to get that as efficiently as possible so that we can get that money out onto the streets. That's the sort of thing that we're trying to make sure we get done. But no, this is going to be a real challenging, tough time for us in government too. We're going to try to make sure everybody stays employed. We're going to try to make sure that we don't have to do furloughs like you see in other jurisdictions. So I'm trying to make sure we take care of those who work for the city, many of whom live in the 3rd and 5th districts, the east side of Kansas City. Because, the problem is when budget cuts start happening and people get laid off, we were talking about disproportionate impacts. That always hits us, right? It always hits the guy working at the water department, the gal who's working at the parks department. Yeah. That's the sort of thing that we need to make sure we're addressing. And so that's how we're going to do it.
So how do you feel about how small business has been able to react, and now we have this new term called pivot, to be able to support the community? How do you what are your ideas, or what is your perspective on how Kansas City has been able to react?
So, I think a lot of our small businesses have shown a level of resiliency that I think is amazing. How folks, let's use restaurants as an example. I live down the street from not by you, but my new spot at 18th and Paseo.
Soiree.
Soiree, yeah. See, I'm becoming an old man now. I'm looking around the room like, used to be Peachtree up there.
Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
So, right. But and I saw that they do a brunch thing, and they've got a man outside playing music, right? I mean, still staying in the neighborhood, right? We've got Smacks down the street, right? That sort of thing where they're actually finding a way to make sure that they're open, make sure that at least they're giving some people some work. You see that in a number of different business categories. That's why I say as much to anybody. Support your small businesses. Don't just run into the Walmart. Don't just run into the Menards. Don't just run into Price Chopper, right? If there are stores that are open here locally, make sure that you're supporting them, particularly Black-owned businesses, right? Try to do that as much as you can, because that's the way we're going to weather this current moment and, frankly, weather the crisis thereafter. Because we're going to be dealing with an issue that a lot of people still aren't going to want to go outside immediately, right? Yeah. They're not going to want to go to a restaurant. They're not going to want to go to some of these things. So we need to make sure we're supporting as much as we can.
Awesome. Well, do you have any last comments or anything like that, Mayor Q?
Yeah. Y'all asked all the good questions. I just want to say how proud I am of Kansas City. I think we've been doing an amazing job, and we're going to get through this. We're going to come out stronger. We're going to make sure we save lives along the way. But, we're going to need strong businesses, our entrepreneurial community, so many others to help us get it done.
Mayor Q, we want to say thank you so much for your time. From me to you, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing for our community. I know everything is very challenging. I know a lot of people want to get outside. They want to go to Loose Park. We want to go back to Foray. We want to walk the streets. But right now, everybody's staying home. And so we love you here at Black Excellence KC. And stay at home, Kansas City.
Absolutely. I'll see y'all. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Yep.